Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. We provide you with the exciting news: William and Princess Anne's shocked move against Camilla. It's time to tell everything. An insider source said that all top working royals convened in Balmoral to debate the future of the monarchy and Prince William's ambitious proposal for restructuring royal operations. The insider said that Prince William has shown that Camilla has contravened several royal protocols and the late Queen's wishes. The conflict is intensifying after Princess Anne's revelation of evidence that the late Queen's wishes had not been previously acknowledged. This indicates that both King Charles and Camilla have not adhered to the late Queen's directives concerning royal titles and the roles of royal family members. This video will unveil Princess Anne's revelations. The Windsor recording. How a 15-year-old secret undermined a queen. In an extraordinary and significant occurrence that has reverberated throughout the British monarchy and garnered global attention, Queen Camilla has been officially relieved of her royal responsibilities and has departed Buckingham Palace in shame. The remarkable decline was instigated by a public revelation spearheaded by an unexpected participant, the notoriously composed Princess Anne. During an opulent gala on June 10, 2025, designed to inaugurate her ambitious new power campaign, Camilla's meticulously crafted reality collapsed. In front of an audience of foreign journalists, dignitaries, and senior courtiers, Princess Anne unveiled a trove of incontrovertible evidence highlighted by a clandestine audio recording recorded on Camilla's wedding day to the then Prince Charles 15 years earlier. The audio revealed Camilla in her own voice admitting that her marriage was not based on love, but rather a strategic maneuver to acquire the secrets and power of the royal family. The disclosure, accompanied by a thorough exposition of witness accounts and incriminating internal documents, has thrust the House of Windsor into its most significant turmoil since King Edward VIII's abdication. It is a narrative of repressed ambition, a servant's unvoiced burden, and the resolute resolve of a princess who jeopardized the monarchy to thwart what she perceived as a covert coup. The following narrative presents the conclusive story of a secret that remained dormant for 15 years only to re-emerge with the intensity of a storm. The ill-fated promises and a subtle conspiracy. April 9th, 2005, Windsor. The day epitomized Britishness. A muted gray sky loomed above Windsor Castle, but the atmosphere on the streets was filled with celebratory expectation. The nuptials of Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles were a long-anticipated occasion representing the climax of a romantic relationship that endured controversy, sorrow, and significant public scrutiny. For many, it was a complicated matter, resembling less a fairy tale romance and more an issue of tradition and reconciliation. Within the Guildhall, the ambiance was laden with a tension that the television cameras could not adequately capture. Prince Charles, attired in a polished morning suit, had an unusually buoyant demeanor with a soft grin on his face. It was the expression of a guy who perhaps mistakenly felt that this ritual would ultimately cleanse the past. Beside him, Camilla Parker Bowles epitomized brilliance and confidence. Her grin was contrived, her eyes shimmering with a barely contained pride as she reveled in the attention of every camera lens. The atmosphere among the royal attendants was more subdued. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, scrutinized the events with a calm, analytical demeanor. Attired in a modest gray-blue coat, she saw the event not as a harmonic amalgamation, but as a meticulously orchestrated performance. Princes William and Harry, their expressions strained, performed their obligations with an artificial civility, their estrangement from their new stepmother a discernible tension. Veteran royal advisers acknowledged with grave decorum, their countenances a mute testament to the tumult of public sentiment that continued to surge outside the castle's venerable stone barriers. Within the confines of the bride's preparation chamber, the genuine drama of the day was transpiring unknown to everyone. As Camilla positioned herself before a mirror to fix her veil, her hands quivered slightly. Her eyes revealed no anxiety. They exhibited the concentrated, steadfast look of a strategist poised to attain a long-desired goal. George Windsor, a quiet, middle-aged servant, entered this intimate moment, having served the royal household for almost 2 decades. He grasped a little notepad and a compact micro-cassette recorder, a device he often used to capture voice notes, ensuring that no aspect of his responsibilities was overlooked. Amidst the subdued bustle of last-minute preparations, he entered the room to issue the 10-minute alert. "Only 10 minutes remain, ma'am," he said with a small bow. While he talked, his thumb positioned on the side of the recorder in his jacket pocket, inadvertently touched the record button. In that singular, unobserved action, history was directed into a novel and perilous trajectory. Camilla inhaled deeply to compose herself, turned away from the mirror and grabbed a half-filled glass of champagne from a neighboring table. She took a measured drink. Upon the door's closure, isolating her with the trusty servant, the courteous front she maintained for the world vanished. It was replaced with an expression of frigid, meticulous calculation. Her voice, while subdued, pierced the quiet with the precision of a glass shard. "Are you aware of the reason I am finally joining this family, George?" She started addressing herself more than him. The device in Windsor's pocket recorded each phrase with unsettling precision. It is not motivated by love. Moreover, it is definitely not intended for those tedious rituals present. She halted her gaze, concentrated on her own reflection. "I desire to uncover all the secrets concealed within these stone walls. Their secrets are my strength. Once I own them all, no one in this family will ever be able to harm me." A pause ensued, heavy with the gravity of her confession. Subsequently, unable to suppress the ambition surging inside her, Camilla drew nearer to the mirror, her voice descending to an intense conspiratorial whisper. She said the 6 words that would become the crux of her demise. "This power shall be mine." George Windsor became immobile. He lifted his head little, his eyes widened in amazement so intense that he momentarily ceased to breathe. He was a guy adept in the skill of invisibility, capable of perceiving neither sound nor sight. This was not a mere remark. It was a declaration of war. Camilla, perhaps unaware of or indifferent to his presence, persisted in her monologue. Charles is merely a portal, an essential one. I want him to infiltrate and get all the data records and anything that has been just spoken about and concealed for an extended period. Upon acquiring complete knowledge, this royal family will be mine. The public and the press will be compelled to observe in quiet. The distant sound of the military band outside intensified, indicating that the event was near. Windsor had an intense need to abscond, to escape the room before he hearing any more information. However, his feet felt as if they were attached to the floor. Camilla moved forward once again, her voice now strained with determination. "It is widely believed that today marks the conclusion of a controversy. Today marks only the start for me. Eventually I will possess all their secrets, and then no one shall compel me to lower my head again." At that moment, a young assistant entered and said that the ceremonial procession was prepared. In a moment, Camilla's whole disposition transformed. The stern, analytical demeanor faded, replaced by the tranquil grin of a bride. She raised her veil, corrected her stance, and exited the room, leaving George Windsor quaking behind her. His pulse raced inside his chest, his palm gripping the notebook, entirely oblivious to the fact that the little item in his pocket had suddenly transformed into the most dangerous thing in the kingdom. That evening, far after the festivities had concluded, Windsor returned to his humble staff lodgings. He seated himself at his little workstation, aiming to delete the day's recordings in order to ready the cassette for the following day's tasks. He activated the playback, anticipating only the muted noises of the day. Conversely, Camilla's voice permeated the confined space, distinct and malevolent. He remained immobilized, listening intently as her whole confession reverberated in his mind. He rewound it and listened once again, the color draining from his cheeks. This was not only ambition, it was a conspiracy. Throughout the night, he traversed his chamber, conflicted between his obligation to the crown and an instinctual apprehension for his own safety and that of his family. By morning, he had determined to disclose his findings. However, he arrived too late. At daybreak, a forceful knock resounded at his door. Mrs. Parker Bowles requested a private audience with him. In her newly furnished apartment, Camilla maintained an erect stance. The delicate bride of the previous day had vanished. A lady with eyes as frigid as a razor occupied her position. "I suspect you eavesdropped on something yesterday, George," she said, her tone dangerously kind. "I trust you are a rational individual. I am aware that your family is experiencing some challenges. Is your daughter unwell? I presume a residence at risk of bank repossession?" Windsor was rendered mute, his throat parched. He felt completely vulnerable and trapped. "I can eliminate all of that." Camilla added, her tone becoming almost saccharine, making it even more frightening. "Your daughter will get outstanding care. Your liabilities will be settled. Consequently, you will merely forget. You will remain quiet indefinitely. Silence has its benefits, George. Provided you remain faithful to me, your family will have a tranquil and comfortable existence. However, if you choose another course, I cannot ascertain the potential consequences for them." The checkmate was achieved flawlessly. Conflicted by his moral principles and familial affection, George Windsor acquiesced. Subsequently, his debts were discreetly settled. His daughter got consistent, high-quality medical attention. The cost of this protection was his complete perpetual quiet. He buried the microcassette inside a tin box at the base of a drawer, a latent threat he hoped would never activate. For 15 years he existed like a specter tormented by the secret he bore. The accumulation of authority. 15 years elapsed. The United Kingdom saw substantial changes, as did the royal family. Following the death of Queen Elizabeth II, Charles came to the throne as King Charles III, with Camilla being anointed as queen alongside him. Her metamorphosis in the public sphere exemplified a masterclass in public relations. She had become a benefactor of several causes, her disposition continuously affable and responsible. The previously disparaged other woman had suddenly become an apparently essential support of the monarchy. Within the confines of the palace, an other narrative was emerging. Camilla was not just fulfilling the role of a supporting spouse, she was systematically accumulating power. She established a network of loyalists, positioning them in critical roles inside the royal household. Long-tenured employees who shown loyalty to the previous administration or to other family members were marginalized, presented with early retirement options, or reassigned to inconspicuous positions. This silent transformation culminated in the introduction of the new power program. The initiative was publicly presented as an essential modernization strategy for the 21st century, aimed at optimizing operations, minimizing expenses, and enhancing the monarchy's efficacy and prominence. The plan, scheduled for formal execution on June 10, 2025, suggested a comprehensive reorganization of the palace's internal operations. The core principle was the concentration of authority. Essential functions such as budget allocation, communications, and most importantly, access to the royal archives were to be transferred to a newly established central coordinating office. The office was to be headed by Queen Camilla herself. This was the last maneuver in her protracted strategy, designed to provide her dominion over the whole royal business, including the same secrets she had coveted on her wedding day. In the approach to this ultimate triumph, Camilla committed her critical error. As she prepared to reach the zenith of her power, those she had exploited and subdued along the road became unresolved matters to be addressed. George Windsor, the man who had safeguarded her secret for 15 years, was suddenly considered a liability. On a dismal morning, he got a terse notice of termination. His employment was terminated and his post was abolished as part of the recent streamlining. The financial assistance that had sustained his family for 15 years was abruptly discontinued without notice or justification. The message was unequivocal: his utility had diminished. He was a pawn removed off the board. Seated in his modest mortgaged home on the periphery of Berkshire, the termination letter quivering in his grasp, Windsor had the pent-up wrath of 15 years culminate in a steely determination. His quiet had been secured, although the agreement had been violated. He had fulfilled his part of the sinister agreement, but he had been discarded in exchange. His fidelity had been repaid with treachery. The princess and the pawn. As Windsor contended with his sudden impoverishment, another individual inside the castle became more concerned. Princess Anne has always kept a polite distance from her brother's spouse, concentrating on her own demanding agenda of public responsibilities. Nevertheless, she could not disregard the evolving ambiance inside the castle. She observed familiar individuals from her parents' administrations vanish, supplanted by new aides exclusively dedicated to Camilla. She overheard murmurs about clandestine gatherings and the exchange of monetary packets. During a royal meal, she saw a glaring exclusion of a cadre of long-serving devoted advisors from the guest list. The institution to which she had devoted her life was being eroded from inside, transformed into an entity she no longer recognized. Her senses, refined over a lifetime of royal scrutiny, indicated that Camilla's present power acquisition was anchored in a more profound historical context. The picture of Camilla on her wedding day, the glimmer of greed in her eyes, resurfaced in Anne's mind with striking clarity. This insight sparked a steadfast and resolute commitment. The Princess Royal initiated her own inquiry. Leveraging her extensive network of established connections, she conducted covert investigations. She engaged with retired personnel, attentively absorbing their accounts of being marginalized. A former housekeeper recounted instances of document destruction throughout the night. A former private secretary detailed how Camilla had methodically deconstructed the conventional advice framework. Subsequently, one name emerged consistently: George Windsor. They described him as a guy who had formerly been intimately associated with Camilla, who had been inexplicably managed for years, and then just as inexplicably abandoned. Although the whole narrative remained elusive, it was evident that he had a fragment of the solution. This was the crucial connection for Anne. Camilla's considerable attempt to suppress and then eliminate this guy indicated that he had crucial information. On a dreary afternoon, Princess Anne drove herself to Berkshire. The deteriorated condition of Windsor's residence provided her with all the validation she needed. She discovered him seated on his doorstep, a shattered individual grasping his termination letter. Upon their eyes meeting, a tacit understanding transpired between them. "We must converse." Mr. Windsor, Anne said, her tone subdued but resolute. Within the little frigid residence, Windsor finally divulged the secret he had borne for 15 years. With quaking hands, he recalled the occurrences of the wedding day, the distressing remarks he had documented, and the ensuing threat that had secured his quiet. "I erred, Your Highness." He finished, his voice trembling with sorrow. "I believed I was safeguarding my family, yet my silence merely facilitated her ascent. It enabled her to reach a stage where she can discard individuals like me without hesitation." Anne listened, her countenance somber. "Do you still possess it?" she inquired. "Is the recording available?" Windsor approached an antiquated wooden cabinet and extracted a little tin box from a deep drawer. He unveiled the microcassette recorder to the princess. "I plan to carry this to my grave," he said. "However, if I choose to remain silent at this moment, I become complicit in her intentions regarding this family. I cannot let it to occur." Anne seized the recorder. It felt burdensome in her grasp, not due to its physical mass, but because of the gravity of the truth it encompassed. Upon returning to her vehicle, she activated the playback. Camilla's voice, youthful but equally frigid and strategic, resonated in the air, the 6 fatal words reverberating through time. All this power will be mine. Anne now had her weapon. However, she understood that a solitary recording, regardless of its incriminating nature, may be disregarded as a forgery. She devoted the subsequent weeks to painstakingly constructing her case. She conducted follow-up interviews with the 12 courtiers and advisors who had been ousted, requiring them to sign signed statements. She hired a forensic accounting company to track the movement of assets from royal charities to private firms managed by Camilla's acquaintances. Ultimately, via a reliable informant still inside the palace, she acquired a copy of the new power implementation plan, including of Camilla's handwritten notes and signature. The scene was prepared for a showdown of monumental significance. The Societal Accountability, June 10, 2025. The Great Hall of Buckingham Palace. The occasion represented the pinnacle of Camilla's reign. Adorned in an exquisite pearl-hued gown and a beautiful tiara, she emanated an atmosphere of complete power while standing next King Charles. She approached the podium to a resounding applause. The New Power Initiative does not aim to displace anyone, she said, her tone imbued with cultivated earnestness. This initiative aims to strengthen our existing foundations and foster a more cohesive royal family. Today, I present myself not merely as your queen, but as the harbinger of a new epoch characterized by clarity and determination. As the applause peaked, the big doors at the back of the auditorium opened. A person entered, eliciting a wave of murmuring from the gathering. It was Princess Anne. Prior to this nation being informed of a new epoch of reform, Anne said, her voice resonating across the auditorium without the use of a microphone, the royal family and the British populace must be apprised of the truth. Camilla's grin became strained. Anne, you are jeopardizing a significant occasion. This is neither the appropriate moment nor the suitable location. Conversely, Camilla Anne said, her gaze unwavering. This is the only occasion and the exclusive location. We shall not enter a new age founded on deceit and conspiracy. The subsequent events constituted a methodical and catastrophic dismantling of Queen Camilla's public image. Anne first summoned George Windsor to the stage. He rose, quaking but determined, and recounted his narrative. Subsequently, Anne initiated the playback of the tape. The resonance of Camilla's voice from 15 years before, revealing her unfiltered ambition, reverberated through the astonished crowd. A simultaneous gasp was perceptible. Camilla, wan but resolute, sought to reject it as a superficial, manipulated ruse. Anne was ready. We possess the original device which forensic specialists have confirmed as unaltered, she said calmly, before proceeding to her subsequent piece of evidence. She submitted the signed statements from the 12 fired courtiers. She exhibited the financial documents indicating millions of pounds misappropriated from charity money. As each new discovery emerged, the ambiance in the room intensified and the stillness deepened. King Charles gazed at his wife, his countenance reflecting a blend of incredulity and deep disillusionment. Ultimately, Anne unveiled her magnum opus, the New Power Initiative. She presented the paper displaying the comprehensive charts for personnel replacement, the annotations about the acquisition of the archives, and ultimately the unequivocal signature, Queen Camilla. This does not constitute modernization, Anne said, her tone resonating with conviction. This constitutes a covert coup. Today I am revealing it to the whole world for what it really is. Disorder ensued. Camilla. Her expression, one of rage, said, "This is slander, a performance intended to disgrace me." However, her voice was overshadowed by the cacophony of the press, the dazzling flashes of cameras, and the appalled murmurs of the attendees. The advisors and allies she had nurtured for years started to discreetly withdraw from their positions, avoiding her sight. She was entirely solitary. The consequences and the quietude. The following days were characterized by a haze of crisis meetings and incriminating headlines. The New Power Initiative has been terminated. The Royal Council convened an emergency session and reached a resolution. Queen Camilla would be permanently suspended from all public responsibilities and royal privileges. She was requested to vacate Buckingham Palace. Her departure was not a great theatrical exit, but a subdued, disgraceful withdrawal. A commonplace vehicle transported her to Clarence House, the home that was once her stronghold, now her ornate confinement. King Charles did not accompany her. He stayed at Buckingham Palace a sovereign, contending with profound treachery. In the seclusion of Clarence House, the gravity of her decline became apparent. The gems, the titles, the reverence all dissipated. The mirror revealed not a queen, but a woman devoid of the authority she had fervently desired. The first days were consumed by a fervent denial as she paced the rooms, her thoughts racing in search of a means to return. However, as the news cycle progressed and the palace started the arduous process of reconstruction, a new reality emerged: stillness. The telephone did not emit a ringing sound. No meetings were scheduled nor personnel to oversee. The power she formerly possessed was not only absent, it was as if it had never been. On the fifth night after the controversy, she confined herself to her study. The precisely devised preparations for her rule were strewn over the floor. In the oppressive silence, the lady who had schemed for decades to dominate an empire suddenly succumbed. She fell to the floor, her body convulsing with sobs, not of rage, but of deep and utter loneliness. She wept for the desire that had engulfed her, for the power that had shown itself as a mirage, and for the harrowing reality that at her moment of total loss, no one remained to provide assistance. A period has ended. The narrative of Queen Camilla will provide a poignant and lasting admonition inside the House of Windsor that the relentless quest for power ultimately results not in a throne, but in a vacant chamber where the only lingering sound is the reverberation of one's own decline. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and goodbye for now.